Man, that's gonna make a lot of noise.
What?
Your stomach.
I know. Don't put the microphone close to my stomach.
I'd like to hear that in like rave music.
Hello there. It's a little bit after 3. We're running a little behind. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for joining
We're
us.
not gonna tell you why.
We're not. That's
Behind the
it's
scenes.
Raymond's fault. I'll just leave it at that.
Every bit.
There you go. Hey, thank you so much for joining us for another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. What are you doing?
Hey, Andy Kahn, Victim Services, Crime Style. I want to thank the viewers who heard my outcry, lamenting the fact that I just can't find cherry flavored and grape flavored Pez. So thank you guys. Next time I'll think of something even better. So
Now, how long will that last
this
you?
will last me probably throughout the week.
Not very long.
Depends if I got to go to Austin or not. If I got to go to Austin, then no. But I am willing to share at least one.
Oh, wow. That's very kind of you.
That's the one.
Exactly.
Yeah, not a whole thing, just one
No,
Pez.
exactly.
Introduce yourself, Nicole.
I'm Nicole Kristoff, and I'm the Deputy Director here at Crime Stoppers of Houston.
Have you had any of his Pez?
I have had, I stole actually a whole package of the cherry Pez, and they were quite delicious.
My stomach has been growling, and they've been telling me to try the Pez, but I'm not too sure about that. A lot's going on in Austin.
I know. You see what happens when you take a week off? Everything happens when you take off. So yeah, I was up in Austin last Tuesday. I broke my own personal record, testified on 4 bills.
Really?
First one, Senate Bill 402, and that was sponsored by Senator John Whitmire. And as we've been reporting and letting everybody know the backlog cases in Harris County Jail and also out on bond, particularly on murder and capital murders, have been going on for years.
Right.
So all this bill will do is prioritize those cases to expedite them for trial. So there was
So they would take precedent over other charges.
Like robberies.
basically
And,
just kind of put them up to the first. Let's get these cases tried, and then let's just move on from there. Because some of them, families I've been dealing with 5 years for. I mean,
That's terrible.
And when I went up and testified, I told the one story. The case got a lot of attention in 2017. It was the subway murder, where the 17-year-old.
we solved that case.
Did you?
Yeah.
We sure did.
Hilda Campos was the mother, and her son stepped in front on a robbery on a subway. And he sadly, unfortunately, ended up being murdered. 5 years later, that case was dismissed.
What?
You know it was dismissed?
No.
The reason why it was dismissed was because they can't find any of the witnesses.
Because they
so much
waited
time
so
had
damn
passed.
long.
And that brought up why we need to get these cases
Oh my
tried.
gosh.
So it was dismissed, and if they find the witnesses,
Yeah.
then, but for right now,
The tip on that case is a funny anecdotal tip, by the way. if
What
you're
happened?
Interested. So,
you can't just say that and then.
Right.
yes, I can. I'm not. We get a tip that says, hey, you're looking at Joe Blow for this subway case. That's not him. You need to be looking at this other guy. And so we relay the tip information to law enforcement. So they start looking at the other guy, realize the other guy is not the guy, and they go back to
Wow.
the guy that we originally got the tip on. And you call again. Hey, you're looking at Joe Blow again. It's not him. It's this other guy. And after the second call, they're like, wait a minute. it ended up the shooter was calling and trying to redirect.
Wow.
He was
Throwing
calling
you for a
Crime
little
Stoppers,
curveball.
Yeah.
trying to redirect the police into a different direction.
Do you think that happens very often?
I think it probably happens more than we realize, but fortunately, the people that answer the tip line are very schooled
Yeah.
in the process of talking to people that are not above bar, and so they're able to kind of suss out
Yeah.
the malarkey.
Crazy.
That
So
should be a
we're,
law, calling in a false tip.
Yeah, like
Really?
like a 911 call.
yeah. Well, yeah. That's if you.
But no, if he hadn't have, I mean, we might not have been able to
Right.
get. But of course, now, unfortunately,
Worked
he got
against them,
away
didn't
with
it?
it.
I know, that's sad. So where is, so what's the
that's
status of
passed
that one?
the Senate committee, and now it's going to be voted on by the full Senate. There was no opposition, no one
That's
testified
nice.
against it, which is always, in
Yeah.
these cases. We had some victims' families that came up there and told their personal stories of waiting years, to go to trial. So I don't see any issue with that, and so I expect that one to get passed and signed by the governor.
Mhm.
The next one was a bill sponsored by Senator Huffman. This is our second time trying to get someone who's on parole, probation, and/or out on bail, who is on an ankle monitor, who just decides, I'm just not too
I'm gonna
happy
take it
with
off.
this ankle monitor, and they either remove, destroy, or tamper it. And right now, it's just a technical violation, which most people are shocked, even members of the
Yeah,
committee.
right. You would think that because it would, technically, it's like state property, right?
For the most part, taxpayers fund
Yeah,
the monitors. Very rarely do I see the actual defendant actually paying
right.
for the monitor themselves. So I ended up talking about that. I talked about 10 other states that actually do have statutes enacted.
Mm.
And I talked about one guy from, actually, it was a state senator from California that basically said, how on earth can you not hold somebody accountable
Right, yeah.
for that? And then I used the same analogy that I've been using for years because I ran out of material. Just don't have any new stuff anymore.
I can attest to that.
True, it's the same. Yes. So if I go into a government office and I take a chair and smash it,
Yeah.
I'm going to be charged with a crime. But
Sure.
if I take my ankle monitor and destroy it, I'm not. That's just ludicrous.
Where is that now?
That's also passed the committee, so it'll eventually be brought up to the Senate as well. There was no opposition on that either.
What do you know what, if it passed,
It'd be a felony, state jail felony.
state jail
Yeah,
felony?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and one of the reasons why I think it's important because it carries more weight, a criminal charge, than a technical violation.
right, yeah,
So if you're actually charged with a crime, it chances of you having your parole revoked or your bond revoked,
Right.
and probation exponentially increase.
because if it's just a technical violation, parole could decide, well, okay, we're going to give you another chance and keep you on parole.
Yeah, this bill basically says you're on parole. If it's on parole, you're not happening. You're not going to be on parole anymore. So that was the second one. The third one was SJR 44. Now tell me what SJR stands for.
What now?
Sugar Jack Ralph.
Then SJR.
SJ.
Close. SJR.
Sugar Jack Ralph.
I'm with her. What is this for?
Senate.
Judicial?
What am I smoking?
Joint.
Joint.
Resolution.
Right, Senate Joint. You get it.
Senate
But
joint resolution.
honestly, it's not that I see a lot of people smoke marijuana, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone smoke it like that. I'm just gonna say.
I was going to say cigar. Senate joint resolution.
You can play games with these.
Yeah.
Try to get Senate Joint Resolution 44 basically is a constitutional amendment that will allow Texas voters to decide whether or not judges should have discretion, and that's the key word, discretion, not to grant bond to defendants charged with certain violent felony crimes. Right now, by statute,
It's just capital murder.
capital murder. So this would just give them discretion. And I think Texas voters should be able to decide whether this is a good bill or a bad bill.
Right.
If they don't like it, then
That's the best way to do it,
Yeah.
right? Everybody gets a say, everybody gets a vote, and the majority wins. And I would think it would be something that judges would want.
Well,
I
when
mean,
we
it gives them more discretion.
when we talked to the judges several years ago, they mentioned that by statute, there's not a lot that they can do. But
If
if
their
there
hands are
were
tied, right?
some legislation put into effect, that would make a big difference. So
Yeah, we've heard a lot of judges say, well, hey, I have no choice. The Constitution says I have to grant a bond to every single defendant except for capital murder. But the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes is they do have the right to revoke bond when someone has violated the conditions of their bond. They don't have to give somebody 8, 10, 12 bonds,
nope.
right?
And I think that's also going to be addressed at this upcoming legislative session.
So where
as
is,
well. So that also, that was actually introduced last session.
yeah,
It passed the Senate, and then it went over to the House. And most 99% of the bills that are filed, it's by simple majority vote. But because it's a constitutional amendment, it has to be 2/3 have to agree. So you've got to have some bipartisan support
right.
on that. It can't be a Republican dominated, therefore we get it, or a Democrat dominated. So I'm hopeful that this time the House will come across and enact this bill. I don't see, there wasn't as much opposition as there was last session when we were absolutely dwarfed in numbers. So I'm cautiously optimistic. It will get out of the Senate. The issue is going to be in the House. So.
And if it did pass, would it be on the
It would
ballot
be on the ballot in
this November?
Yep.
That'd be good.
We can vote. Yeah. So I just think Texas voters, should have the right to do that. I
Right.
don't see any doubt.
And this would be statewide. It wouldn't just be Harris County. It would be everybody in the state would get to vote for it because it's the state constitution.
And I'll go out on a limb and I'll speculate, even though I don't like to roll the dice. I'm fairly confident that it would pass.
Yeah, I think that most people would say, yeah, let's give judges more discretion, give them more of
it's another tool.
right.
It's
Right.
just another tool that they can use when making a very important decision.
And they do, I mean, I want to make it clear that I have a lot of respect for judges. It's a difficult job. They make very difficult decisions, and it's not something that they take lightly. It's just, we've seen this over the last 2-3 years where these violent offenders out on multiple bonds go on to commit more crimes, sometimes more heinous crimes.
And we've seen a significant change
Yeah, we have.
in the last year.
We really
As
have.
a result of that. So I think the pendulum is swinging in this way. Passing this amendment will give more tools to be able to utilize it. So that was the third one. The fourth one is a little bit more, some might say controversial, and that's Senate Bill 1318. And it's 1318 basically enhances Senate Bill 6, which was passed in 2021, which restricts most violent offenders from being able to get PR, personal recognizance bonds. There were several offenses that we found that weren't included, and the big one that we found is felon in possession of a weapon.
Why do you think that needs to be included?
Well, with everybody talking about gun violence,
Right.
gun violence, I can't, it defies logic why you would give someone who shouldn't have a gun in the first place,
Right.
felon in possession of a weapon, an automatic get out of jail free card. And I brought up several of the stories that we've done here where they have gotten out and they've reoffended.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely seen, there's a pattern with a lot of these defendants that they have other charges, but they always seem to have felon in possession of a weapon. And a lot of times it was a very low bond given for that.
Low bond or PR bond. And I brought this to your attention, Nicole, the issue of people getting charged with possession of a prohibited weapon, a machine gun. Did you ever think
Right.
you'd get a PR bond for having a machine gun?
I mean, no.
I mean, it's just, I think that it's naive to think that a felon has a weapon to just protect themselves. I mean, I just think that that's sort of naive to think that. I mean, that's kind of asking for trouble. You know, if you're a convicted felon and you can't have a gun, you shouldn't have a gun. Why do you have a gun?
No, so that did have opposition, just like Senate Bill 6 did have opposition. So they're doing a couple fine tuning of the bill. But again, I expect that to get out of the Senate, and then the real battle will be in the House. So it was a very busy day last Tuesday.
Out of all of them, how do you feel? What do you feel the most good about making it becoming law?
Prioritizing trials, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Nobody's in that one, and charging someone with an ankle monitor. The other two, you can get into arguable debates on the constitutional amendment. But again, I think voters should be able to make that decision or not. And then probably, like I said, the most contentious one would be adding more offenses for not getting a get-out-of-jail PR bond.
And remember, you put these people, you elect them to go to Austin to change laws. You can have your voice heard, right? I mean, shoot an email to your representative, your state senator, shoot them an email, contact their office, tell them how you feel about some of this. They do listen to that. They pay attention to that.
They pay more attention than you would know. And the good thing is when a lot of these bills come over to the House, and it's hard for people to go up to Austin. I get it.
Right.
It's not an easy thing to do, take off, and especially because we know normally we get a few days notice that you got to get up there. But the House will allow you to submit email comments on the bills. So, and we'll be sure to let everybody know how they can voice their perspective one way or the other.
Yeah. And you all have a lot on the Crime Stoppers website about kind of explaining how the whole process works.
If you've never been to Austin during a legislative session, I would encourage you to go, because you'll probably end up leaving shaking your head going, no, how did we become a state? I cannot believe some of the stuff over here. So,
Yeah.
But we got, one of the things that you and I looked at was a bill involving Crime Stoppers.
Yeah.
This
There was
interesting.
a representative from the Dallas area that put forward a bill that would amend Texas Government Code 414, which is the one that governs Crime Stoppers, and specifically the importance of protecting a tipster's anonymity. And there's verbiage in 414 that says that Crime Stoppers may be compelled to produce tip information to the judge in a case if they think that it might contain exculpatory evidence or information. And this person wants to change it to shall. So that means any tip we get, we must give to the state and thereby also the defense. And if it's exculpatory, that it's slightly understandable.
Right.
The issue with this is in a couple of different layers. Number one, just because we get a tip that says Andy Kahn stole all the Pez doesn't mean somebody's going to go arrest Andy Kahn right away.
Yeah, I'm sure you get, with all the tips you get, they're not all good ones.
They're not all good ones, but the law requires that the police investigate that information before they act on it. So they can't just go throw cuffs on Andy because somebody said he stole all the
vet
Pez.
these out thoroughly.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So that's one. Then the other thing is there are slight nuances that someone familiar with the case might be able to read into the tip information and determine who the tipster is. For example, tipster said the suspect walked in with a bloody shirt and hid it under the sink. Well, the suspect knows who was in that place when he walked in with the bloody shirt.
Yeah.
So by saying the tipster said they saw this, that could identify the tipster,
Right.
putting them at great peril. We here in Houston go through a lot of steps. We do not use gender pronouns in our tip information because that could inadvertently identify someone. And we basically just provide the meat and potatoes,
Right, yeah.
and not all this extraneous stuff that isn't
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. When you all say you're going to remain anonymous,
It's, yeah.
you mean it. I mean,
It's-
you remain anonymous.
And it's protected by state law.
Right.
So it's not like it's just a good idea. It's if we lose that, the whole thing goes
You might as well
to,
just pack up and.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what do you think the likelihood of this would be passing?
well, there's an organization called Texas Crime Stoppers Association that it's an association for all of the sites here in Texas, and they did a great job of getting the word out to all of the sites that this is what we've seen. This is the impact that it could have. These are the members that are on the criminal jurisprudence committee. If you feel so inclined, if you agree or disagree, please send them an email and let them know. And so my understanding is they most likely received quite a few emails
They
from
would.
across the state, not just Harris County. This is the whole state.
Yeah.
And then it moved to,
They, instead of having an actual committee hearing, they sent it to a subcommittee, and as someone who's done legislative work for 30 years, that's kind of the kiss of death if you're being sent to a subcommittee. So I would think right now the chances of this being heard in committee and even heard in committee and being voted out of committee are slim to none, as it should be. But this is an example, if you don't keep up with what's
Right.
happening there, things like
Right.
this could easily slide by, and the next thing you know, it's a law, and you're like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
and somebody that doesn't even understand Crime Stoppers, how the organization operates, is writing this law.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which is kinda
that's very
scary.
concerning.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have a good knowledge base of how this organization operates,
Then shut up.
If you're gonna write a bill.
I did not say that.
I did.
If you're writing a bill addressing Crime Stoppers, you would think that you would want to speak with Crime Stoppers
Right.
organizations to get their input, whether this should be filed or not. And obviously, in this case, it didn't happen, but luckily we got wind of it before it could, start
Mhm.
sailing. So
And you kind of that's a good reminder that there's Crime Stoppers all over the state and
Absolutely.
in many areas of many different municipalities,
Exactly.
and they all do the same thing, and that's try to solve crimes through
We
tips.
all have the same mission: solve and prevent serious crime in partnership with law enforcement, media, and the community. Our number one goal is to bring resolution to felony cases.
Yeah.
We do a few misdemeanors, animal cruelty, domestic violence, ones that usually lead to bigger things.
Yeah.
But by and large, the cases that our site here in Houston and Harris County solve are majority violent
Yeah.
in nature.
Sure.
and
So-
you got a great example, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do,
Uh-oh.
as a matter of fact.
That's it.
Okay, so this is a tip that we paid on in February, so it was a January case. This,
My stomach is just the microphone's right picking it up.
whoa,
I know. It's like
I'm telling you,
shut
I
up.
have pimento cheese upstairs.
Dude, this is not a.
I'm waiting for some kind of alien thing to like pop out, right?
Yeah, so, and actually it might be a good thing that you haven't ate yet when I tell you about this case. So this suspect was dubbed initially the high heel bandit
Oh,
or
really?
high heel hijacker. And then after some information came out on the news, more witnesses are saying, actually, not only is she a high-heeled hijacker, she is also a smelly bandit.
Okay.
So this lady,
I would rather be the high heel.
Right.
I definitely would rather be the high heel bandit than the
The
smelly
smelly bandit.
bandit. But so in November of 22, the suspect approaches a woman at a hotel. I want your money. I've got a gun. The lady gives her $60 or something like that. That's not enough. Let me see your wallet. Takes her wallet. That's not enough. Get in the car. We're going to your ATM. So she's robbed the lady, presumably at gunpoint. Then she kidnaps her by making her go to the ATM. Doesn't get much money out of that. Then in December, just a month later, she shows up at a Schlotsky's smelling.
Oh, Schlotsky sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It
it
does.
does. It does. Smelling and tries to rob them
Is she wearing high heels too?
with a side of Pez. I imagine yes.
Yeah.
So then the next day she ends up at another place robbing them. Then the next day on the 21st, she shows up at a bank and robs the bank
Uh-oh.
in her high heels
Smelling bad.
with her lovely aroma. So yeah, we got a tip that said it's this lady, and they went and arrested her right at the house that she actually owns. So
Wow.
yeah, crazy. And interesting side note, this is what I call my Slumdog Millionaire trivia. The olfactory senses are the strongest senses, and you can recall something very quickly by noticing the smell. So I would imagine
The suspect's body odor was
was the key.
factor.
Get her
The key
in.
factor.
Get her in.
Wow. So that kind of leads to, things you should make sure if you're going to go rob stuff.
Right.
Probably take a
what
bath.
would you suggest?
I would suggest take a bath before, because I
Okay,
mean,
so
Little cologne,
that
something, right?
olfactory. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'd
Or if
rather
you-
be
or if-
known as the clean bandit.
Right.
than
Or if
the
you have too
smelly.
much cologne on, you know, it's
Oh
like
yeah,
the
that's
polo bandit.
the polo, the Old Spice bandit.
Right, the Old Spice
He was
bandit.
old and decrepit, and he smelled of Old
He's
Spice.
so like my grandpa.
there's a lot we can learn from this.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, yes.
You know, so
See all the things that you learn by watching this live
I
stream.
learned, if I'm going to go and rob stuff, that I'm making sure, I'm.
You're gonna smell good.
There's other
I will have
things,
somebody do a smell test on me first before
but Andy, you could not go commit a crime because there are too many characteristics that you do that would give you away.
Plus, he's real tall. He was tall.
Yeah, I would have to.
You'd have to keep your hands in your pocket.
Right.
Because those hands kind of
I would wear hand mittens or something.
mittens,
Hand
yeah.
gloves, things of
He
that
had,
nature.
he had Pez on his breath. That's what I remember. He had just
he
eaten
reeked of
Pez.
cherry and grape Pez.
Where is she now?
She's still in jail. Yeah,
Well,
she is not
good.
bonded
How
out.
old is she?
She was born in 1964.
So she kind of she went from robbing people to going into a bank.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. She escalated quick. And what's interesting is when we looked her up, she had a previous conviction for harassing communication in 1990 something.
Wow.
So she's been chugging along, presumably either a successful bandit or a non-bandit, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden something happened in her life, which is sad and unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't you want to know as a reporter, kind of where she went wrong? I would think if I was a reporter, I
Where
would
did
go-
she go wrong?
First of all, I would want to go interview her at the jail and then see if it's still
if she's still in fact
right,
smelly.
what the
First
smell
thing, right,
is.
and-
Yeah.
B. What was her reaction?
But you
B,
know, too, no matter, I mean, stuff happens in everybody's life.
Of course.
But you should never think, well, I know, I'll turn to a life of crime, because it's
And
just
then-
going to make things worse.
4 aggravated robberies
Yeah.
in the span of a couple of days.
Right. And I mean, if you have financial problems, I mean, there's different agencies and entities
Supports.
yeah,
You
right.
just have to seek them out, and they're but by the grace of God, right? I mean, any
Right.
one of us could end up in a position where we're like, "Holy cow, I can't do this. I literally have to find some money."
Well, in the news now, there's I don't know how many millions of dollars that
Mhm.
for rent relief for people that are still having
Right.
problems from the pandemic that, that to help
Mhm.
pay their rent. Yeah, I mean, people from time to time, they need a helping hand, and we're all here to kind of help each other.
And
All
thank
right,
God there is help.
Your poll question, okay?
Mm.
Should Randy Wallace Emmy Award winning, and just got another award.
Why do
Emmy
we even talk to
I
him
don't
investigative
know.
report. Should he do a story
on the
on the
smelly?
smelly? And
Send your
and
emails.
get the backstory. I want a viewer poll question. Should there be a follow? I mean, I would
The
want to
big
know.
question is the smelly high-heeled bandit on bond?
Not as of this afternoon.
Not as a bit. She could possibly be a breaking bond
Ooh.
defendant
So
in the near future.
by
Maybe.
initials, it's what? SHHH? Or the
Smelly
three?
high-heeled hijacker.
Yeah.
That was
She
pretty
sells-
good. That you,
She sells seashells by the seashore.
What are we doing tonight?
Hey. Yes, we've looked at this before. We're taking another look. Keep in mind, when someone is on parole, they're basically, like you say all the time, they're serving the remainder of their sentence out in society, out in with the rest of us. And there are certain things that they must do, or they will go back to prison. One thing that's definitely a violation of your parole is picking up a new criminal charge. What have we been seeing?
This is several cases now that we've seen where individuals on parole who are then charged with a felony, yet are allowed to bond out and to remain on parole, who've now gone on to be charged with some serious violent crimes like murder.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real head scratcher to even think that someone that is on parole could end up picking up a criminal charge, getting a bond, and being right out to do whatever they want to do. Be sure to check that out tonight on Fox 26 News at 9 for a breaking bond report. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Be kind to yourself and everybody else.
Have Pez on me.
There you go. Thank you.